Hi, I'm Heather, and I'm a Senior Clinical Director and Therapist at Octave. If you've thought about doing couples therapy, but your partner isn't quite ready, you're not alone. One of the most common questions I get as a therapist is, what do I do if my partner isn't quite ready or is refusing to go to couples counseling with me? In this video, we're going to talk about why people sometimes feel hesitant to start relationship counseling and how to broach the topic with them without causing more conflict. Some of the common reasons why someone might not want to start couples therapy is their own lack of therapy in their own life. Sometimes that can be very scary to think about sitting in a room with a therapist and your partner talking about really difficult topics and conversations. And also fear of rocking the boat and not knowing what to do with it. And so a big piece of relationship counseling is actually teaching the two partners in the room how to manage conflict in a healthy way. I think sometimes misconceptions that people have coming into therapy really stem from blame. I don't ever like to use the word resistant in therapy because I think underneath resistance is actually fear. So it can look like fear of being blamed, fear of what will come out of therapy if we start to have these difficult conversations, and fear that they will be viewed or labeled as the problem in the relationship. I always say that relationships are kind of like climbing a mountain together. There are going to be stretches of that hike that feel easy, fun, and you're just kind of enjoying the view together. And then there are also going to be stretches that feel hard, exhausting, and every time you turn, there's an unexpected obstacle. And so I always like to tell my clients that typically, hikers don't wait until they're stranded on the side of a mountain to consult a guide or a tool to help them get back on track. And so couples counseling can be that guide to help you and your partner learn to manage conflict, communicate effectively, and get back on course to where you're going together. Another analogy that I like to talk about when I'm working with couples is what I call the Band-Aid analogy. So imagine that you're walking down the sidewalk and you trip, you scrape your knee. You have a few choices. You can quickly throw a Band-Aid on that wound and you might feel fine for a few days or a few weeks. However, if you haven't properly cleaned out that wound, it might start stinging. That's the way that I think about relationship counseling. Couples might be fine for a few weeks, a few months, maybe longer. But ultimately, if we haven't properly cleaned out the wounds, that might look like value misalignment or communication styles. Things might start stinging. And so couples counseling can help you properly clean out that wound and get you and your partner back on the way you want to go. If you are someone who's thinking about starting couples therapy with your partner, I encourage you to pause and give it a good look. Think about what your hesitations are. Are they actually fears? Fears of what might come out of these difficult conversations. Fears that you might not know what to do with what comes out of these conversations. Those are all tools that you and your therapist can work on together. The goal of therapy is to help you and your partner have these difficult conversations, to learn how to effectively manage conflict so that way you're not brushing things under the rug or throwing Band-Aids over that wound. Oftentimes, one of the partners has been thinking about starting relationship counseling for months, and the other maybe is just starting to recognize that things seem challenging in their relationship. So if you get the sense that your partner is not quite ready for relationship counseling, I always encourage you to ask. Let's be direct and ask your partner, what are your thoughts on relationship counseling? What do you think might happen? Do you have any concerns? And that opens the pathway to have an open-ended and honest conversation with each other about your expectations of starting relationship counseling. I think that sometimes when someone tries to approach a conversation with their partner and explore why they might not be ready for couples counseling, one big thing is often the biggest downfall right out of the gate, and that is you statements. As human beings, our brains are wired to get defensive when someone says a you statement to us. And so I always encourage you to use I statements. Here's what I am hoping for in relationship counseling. Here's why I would like to go. And here's my vision for us as we go through relationship counseling together. I recommend if you're going to have this conversation with your partner, make sure that you're doing so at a place and time where there's no distractions. Just like couples counseling, this is a time where you and your partner have undivided attention towards each other and can have an honest and open conversation. So the reality is that you can ask all the right questions and do everything right, but yet your partner is still not quite ready to get into the room with you and a therapist. And that happens. And so there's always room for your own individual therapy, which can help you work through what your concerns are and what you want to do with them. And the reality is that maybe it's just not the right time, and with a little bit of your own individual work, you and your partner will get into that room together with a therapist. So a lot of times, if your partner is not quite ready to sit down with you, you can have your own individual therapist, like we have here at Octave, who will help you work through and identify what you need from your partner, what your expectations are from your partner, and continue working on ways to have that conversation with your partner. So it is important to check back in with your partner after you've had a chance to plant the seeds and let your partner know that you are interested in starting couples counseling. Give them space. Sometimes they need to think about what couples counseling means to them and work through their own thoughts on their end. And so it's okay to set another time to check back in. Maybe give it a week and let the partner know that this is something that you would like to bring up again. Another misconception about couples counseling is actually that you don't need it until things are really bad. And that's actually the opposite of what we want. I love seeing couples who are newly engaged or in the middle of dating. Maybe there's value misalignment and they want to just make sure that they are aligned on their path forward. And so something I always encourage individuals to think about is, what do we want couples counseling to be for us? Is it just our 1 hour a week where we know that we will have uninterrupted time focusing on whatever we need it to? Or are there different topics that we want to talk through? I'm always interested in both individuals' perspective of why they're sitting with me in the room. What are their expectations? What's their why? That's something that I always come back to with couples that I'm working with. Why are you here? Right? Because I use that as a jumping off point to come back to when the conversations get tough and we need to plant those seeds in the beginning. I think my viewpoint on virtual therapy is whatever is going to give couples access to support, I'm all for that. But there certainly are pros and cons. I think when you're sitting in a room with someone physically, you're reading body language, you're reading a lot of nonverbal cues that you might not necessarily get in a virtual capacity, but you still can read it virtually. And so if you are someone who just the logistics of getting to an office with your partner seem daunting and impossible, give virtual therapy a try. At Octave, we do a lot of front-end work to make sure that we're matching couples with a therapist that's going to be the right fit for you. So that could look at modalities that the therapist is trained in, styles, experience. There's many, many things that go into making sure that the therapeutic alliance with your therapist is the right fit and sets you up for success in therapy. If there's one thing you take away from this today, let it be that you and your partner do not need to have it all figured out before you come to couples counseling. The most important piece of exploring couples therapy is staying curious, communicating effectively, and leaning into the process. Thanks for taking the time today, and if you're interested in starting your journey with couples counseling at Octave, please check out our website at findoctave.com.